Good evening, and this is the national news broadcast on Channel I, and we're ready to bring you the top stories from home and around the world. I'm Natalia Viravardhana.
Hello there, very good evening indeed. I'm Javed Bongzo, and we begin with the headlines of tonight's news.
465 COVID-19 recoveries were reported today. The percentage of recoveries in the country reaches up to 71. 7 billion rupees allocated to provide relief for 1.4 million families affected with COVID-19 outbreak, Minister Kehelia says. The low-pressure condition in the Bay of Bengal likely to intensify into a severe cyclonic storm. State Minister Vidura Vikramanayake reveals the Central Cultural Fund's fixed deposits fraud. Russia prepares to distribute its COVID-19 vaccine for foreign nations at a cheaper price.
And now on the top story for tonight, Minister Kehelia Rambukwala says the government has already allocated approximately 7 billion rupees to provide relief for 1.4 million families affected from COVID-19 outbreak in the country. The minister said that the development activities of the country will be carried out without any hindrances in the face of coronavirus pandemic. The minister made these remarks while addressing a media briefing held at the Department of Government Information today. Minister Kehelia Rambukwala said that the government will take responsibility to fulfill the Vistas of Prosperity policy statement as promised to the public while facing the new challenges of COVID-19 outbreak. He said that the government signed the largest investment ever made to Sri Lanka recently, though many baseless propaganda have been circulated claiming that the country has been deprived with investors under the present circumstances. He said that the government signed a $300 million worth investment for a tire factory in Hambantota, and the necessary work related to the investment has already been commenced. He pointed out the importance in working together as one group at a time when the entire world and the country have been grappled by the pandemic. He then invited all the citizens to set aside their political affinities and work together as one nation at this challenging situation. He said that various opinions have surfaced over the education sector. He regretted the statements made by the trade union leaders over the trade union actions to be taken under the prevailing situation. The minister said that he vehemently rejects such opportunistic actions which would severely affect the general public. The minister added that in his belief, general public and those who are involved in the education sector also reject such actions. Colombo District Secretary Pradeep Yasaratne said that the relief packages provided by the government for 12,248 families undergoing quarantine in Colombo District have already been distributed. Colombo District Secretary Pradeep Yasaratne said that 8 multi-storied housing complexes have been locked down under the instructions of the health authorities. He said that the relevant dry ration package has been distributed for more than 25,000 people belonging to 8,486 families residing in the housing complexes. He added that health authorities have decided to lock down several housing complexes for another 14 days. Accordingly, he said that the dry ration package will be provided for the residents during the 14-day period. He said that this initiative was commenced yesterday, and meanwhile he added that the 5,000 rupee allowance has been distributed among 434,776 beneficiaries.
And in a weather update, the Met Department says the Niva cyclone has intensified into a severe cyclonic storm over southwest Bay of Bengal. The cyclonic storm expected to move northwestwards and across Tamil Nadu coast, India within the next 24 hours. The department forecasts that heavy rains and strong gusty winds are expected in northern, eastern and north-central parts of the island.
As per the meteorological department, the warning still there due to the for the bad weather prevailing in many areas of northern and the eastern provinces of Sri Lanka. Still, the fishermen are advised not to venture the areas of eastern and northern and northwestern areas. Still, their sea areas could be rough. So still that cyclonic situation is moving towards Indian region, and the rain also would be expected in northern and the eastern and north central and the Puttalam district around 75 millimeters or to up to 100 millimeters. So there are some rain recorded in especially in the Jaffna district and around surrounding areas, but there are no any adverse situation occurred around the country yet. And the Tri-Forces Police and District Disaster Management Units and all other stakeholders been standby to face any kind of disaster situation due to the bad weather situation. Still, people are advised to be very vigilant with that situation until the situation is totally recovered. So still, Met is completely monitoring the situations and the providing the technical information to the Emergency Operations Center of the Disaster Management Center, and the 117 call center is completely open in 3 languages to cope with that situation in 24-hour basis. So all the guidelines with the health department and measures to already been informed and advised to all the district disaster management units and all of the stakeholders.
The Ministry of Health says that a total of 14,962 COVID-19 recoveries were recorded in the country at present. 465 fully recovered patients have left the hospitals today. A batch of 119 patients at COVID-19 treatment centers in Polonnaruwa district have left the centers today following their complete recovery from the disease. The recovered patients have been identified as residents from Colombo, Gampaha, Kandy, Matale, Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Hambantota areas. A batch of 21 patients at Pinnavala COVID-19 treatment center has left the centers today. They are residents from Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara, Gaul, Matara, Hambantota and Variapola areas. A total of 337 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country yesterday. Another 428 recoveries were recorded today. 189 patients were detected from Colombo district, while 47 patients were detected from Gampaha district. The percentage of COVID-19 recoveries in the country is increased up to 71.95, while the percentage of active COVID-19 patients currently receiving treatment stands at 27.62. A total of 287 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country today. The patients have been identified as close contacts of the Palyagoda COVID-19 cluster. Another 465 recoveries were recorded today. A total of 10,697 PCR tests were conducted yesterday. Accordingly, more than 757,000 PCR tests have been conducted in the country at present. Another 35 inmates have tested positive for COVID-19. Accordingly, a total of 717 COVID-19 patients have been detected from prisons in the country. Lonavala District Hospital has been turned into a COVID-19 residential treatment center. Accordingly, steps have been taken to establish the outpatient unit of the hospital near the public vehicle park premises in Moratuwa. The care beneficiary card, which would allow physicians, nursing staff and other health officers to fulfill their daily needs conveniently, was introduced today. The project was initiated as a joint venture of Sri Lanka Medical Association and Ministry of Health. 3 COVID-related deaths were reported in the country yesterday. Director General of Health Services said that the deaths were reported from Heyantoduwa, Matakulia and Colombo 14 areas. Travel restrictions have been imposed in Telembugahavatta and Bulgohotanda in Akuran Divisional Secretariat Division in Kandy today. The travel restrictions were imposed after identifying 39 COVID-19 patients from these areas. Steps have been taken to isolate a labour housing complex in Chapel Road, Wattala today. The area was isolated after identifying 35 COVID-19 patients. The isolation status in Angulana North and Angulana South Gram Nildari divisions was lifted today. However, isolation status imposed in Sairupura housing complex will continue to remain in effect. 13 police divisions in Colombo district are still isolated. Also, Wanathamulla, Slave Island and Vakanda Gram Nildari divisions in Boralla police divisions have continued to be isolated. Isolation status in 5 police divisions in Gampaha district and 7 Gram Nildari divisions in Kaltar district will continue to remain in effect. 74 COVID-19 have been detected from these Gram Nildari divisions. Accordingly, the number of patients detected from these areas have increased up to 93. A total of 188 Sri Lankans stranded in foreign nations unable to return to the country due to the COVID-19 outbreak arrived in Sri Lanka this morning. They have arrived from Abu Dhabi and Qatar.
Meanwhile, taking a look at the global situation of the pandemic, Europe and the Americas are battling rising coronavirus caseloads, pushing health systems to the brink while forcing governments to issue stay-at-home orders and close businesses heading into the crucial Christmas period. The cumulative total of confirmed global COVID-19 cases reached 59.26 million, including a death toll of 1.39 million thus far. The number of COVID-19 cases in the Americas reached nearly 25 million, with Europe and Southeast Asia reporting more than 17 million and over 10 million cases respectively. The United States topped all countries worldwide in both confirmed coronavirus cases and deaths. COVID-19 cases in the US reached more than 12.4 million, with a death toll of over 257,000. In Europe, the number of new COVID-19 infections in Germany remains high and increased up to more than 950,000 at present. German Ministry of Health has indicated that in light of encouraging developments in clinical trials and the expected regulatory approval of a COVID-19 vaccine, vaccination centers across Germany would be operational by mid-December. Russia reported a record 491 deaths linked to the novel coronavirus today, bringing the official death toll to 37,000. Authorities also reported 24,326 new coronavirus infections in the space of 24 hours, bringing the national cumulative tally to 2.1 million. Russian Deputy Prime Minister said that coronavirus situation continues to become more complicated with the onset of autumn and winter. In Britain, another 15,450 people tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday, bringing the total number of coronavirus cases in the country to 1.5 million. The coronavirus-related deaths in Britain have risen by 206 to 55,200. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a tougher system of coronavirus restrictions yesterday to replace England's current lockdown, which is expected to end on 2nd December. England is currently under a month-long national lockdown, the second of its kind since the coronavirus outbreak in Britain, in a bid to quell the resurgence of coronavirus. Canada reported 5,119 new cases of the COVID-19, an additional 49 deaths yesterday. It was the fourth straight day in which Canada had reported case numbers above the 5,000 mark. Canada had confirmed a total of more than 337,000 COVID-19 cases and 11,500 deaths. Ontario reported record high 1,589 new COVID-19 cases yesterday as Toronto and Peel region in the province started lockdown. Brazil reported 302 new deaths from the novel coronavirus, raising the death toll to 169,000. Also, 16,207 new cases of infection were reported yesterday, bringing the total caseload to more than 6 million. Brazil has the world's second highest COVID-19 death toll after the United States and the third largest outbreak after the United States and India. India has recorded 37,975 new infections of coronavirus today, while the daily tally is remaining below the 50,000 mark for more than 2 weeks, having peaked in September. The latest increase brought the total number of cases to 9.18 million. And deaths have risen by 480, with the total now at 1,340,000. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has said yesterday that avoiding family gatherings would be the safest bet over the Christmas, insisting there is no zero-risk option for traditional holiday merrymaking during the coronavirus pandemic. WHO officials said it was up to governments to weigh up the economic and social benefits of loosening pandemic restrictions over the festive period.
And the World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said progress has been marked in the research and development of the COVID-19 vaccines, with positive news from vaccine trials bringing real hope in ending the pandemic during a press briefing on yesterday. The WHO Director General stressed that the international community must set new standards for access to vaccines, with the equitable distribution of vaccines being urgent as vaccine research and development.
With the latest positive news from vaccine trials, the light at the end of this long, dark tunnel is growing brighter. There is now real hope that vaccines, in combination with other tried and tested public health measures, will help to end the pandemic.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the WHO Health Emergencies Program, Michael Ryan, indicated on the possibility of the existence of more than one case zero of the coronavirus disease under some circumstances, and multiple times of introductions might occur across different species. He said that to confirm the case zero of COVID-19 is of crucial importance, and if the coronavirus lives in the animal kingdom, it can be highly impossible to spread across different species multiple times.
Identifying case zero is a very important aspect of all epidemic investigations. There may be more than one case zero in some situations because there may be more than one species breach. We're increasingly seeing that SARS-CoV-like viruses have been identified in many different countries. In fact, in horseshoe bats most recently in the last few days, we've seen other potential intermediate hosts identified in various settings. So there's no question that this virus has a natural home probably somewhere in the bat community, some intermediate hosts who we haven't fully identified yet. And how that disease then breach that barrier into the human species may have been a single event, it may have been multiple events. Those events may have occurred in one particular time or over a range of different times. Because if the virus is present in the animal kingdom or in wild animals, then the chances of multiple introductions.
And meanwhile, meet the mountain hikers who are making junk art to encourage others not to litter as social distancing measures drive more people from the cities to the hills.
This is South Korea's clean hikers, and they're making junk art to encourage others not to litter. They've been shocked by the amount of trash accumulating in the mountains as social distancing measures drive more people from the cities onto the hiking trails. 30-year-old Kim Kang-un is the founder of Clean Hikers.
We make the junk art because it's more compelling and well received rather than just saying, let's not litter. We can make an interesting image which can attract people's interest and explain the trash is all from the mountains. That's why we do this junk art project.
Kim started the campaign in 2018 after she found a rubbish heap on Mount Jiri, the country's largest national park. Since then, Kim and her team have gathered more than 1,800 pounds of abandoned waste.
We made an image of an animal which is suffering from trash and the presence of humans. So this shows a crying cat who was attacked by rubbish.
Face masks, plastic bottles, food containers, wet wipes or even nappies all make up the art, which are assembled at the top of the mountain. Kim said more people have shown their interest in nature and the environment this year. The number of visitors to 3 major national parks close to South Korea's big cities has risen more than 20% in October compared to last year, according to the Korea National Park Service. And with it, Kim says, her campaign has also attracted more attention.
Many people have shown their interest about our activity on social media. As many as 100 people have joined at once. It has become a really popular and meaningful activity. We cannot clean up all of the mountains. The more important thing is keep doing it, tell people about it, and make more people join in. This is much more crucial.
And the Nebraska Medical Center houses the United States' only federal quarantine unit. It has been pushed to the brink with COVID-19 patients as the nation sees its worst wave of the virus yet.
The nurses at the Nebraska Medical Center are stretched to their limits.
Okay, I got it here.
As COVID-19 patients push the hospital past its capacity.
Do you have what you need for pressers?
It's the United States' only federal quarantine unit, used during previous health crises like the Ebola outbreak in 2014. And it's designed to isolate and contain highly contagious diseases. However, the virus's grip on the Midwest has left the center's medical specialists struggling with cases double what they were in the spring and showing no sign of stopping. Dr. Mark Rupp is the center's chief of infectious diseases. He says they may soon have no choice but to selectively admit COVID-19 patients.
In Nebraska in particular, and within the upper Midwest in general, we're really just on fire. COVID is spreading very rapidly, person to person throughout the community in a most alarming fashion.
For the past 2 weeks, thousands have been diagnosed with COVID-19 every day in Nebraska, a state with a population of only around 2 million. Rupp says Nebraska was not hard hit by the United States' first wave of the virus, and that too many Nebraskans may have thought they were safe from what they saw elsewhere on TV.
If they have their Thanksgiving gatherings and they continue to frequent bars and restaurants and gym facilities and pass this virus from person to person, then there's no reason that we can't become what New York looked like back in March.
But without a statewide mask mandate and with the Thanksgiving holiday just days away, Rupp fears the situation may only get worse. He's calling on all Americans to hold off on celebrating with family this year in the hopes of getting to see them again next year.
It's just not worth it. It's unfortunately sort of our year with COVID. And I think what we need to hold out for folks is that next year at this time, I'm very hopeful that we will be able to have joyous family gatherings and holiday celebrations.
And back to stories from home. The students who obtained the highest marks at this year's Grade 5 scholarship examinations were commended. The ceremony was held at the Ministry of Education. Accordingly, 10 students and 2 students with special needs who achieved higher marks at the Grade 5 scholarship examinations were commended at the ceremony. The students received their certificates of recognition from Minister Professor G.L. Piris. The principals and academic staff of the respective schools were also appreciated at the ceremony. State Ministers Susil Premjant, Vijita Berugoda, Piyal Nishanta and Dr. Sitaram Mepola and Secretary to the Ministry of Education Professor Kapila Pereira were present at this occasion. Addressing the gathering, the minister said that a decision was reached to reopen the schools while responsibly facing the prevailing challenges, as continuing to hold the academic activities of the students is not practical. State Minister Vidura Vikramanayake revealed at the Parliament today that funds worth 25,000 million rupees from the fixed deposits of the Central Cultural Fund have been misappropriated between 2015 to 2019. He made these revelations while taking part in the second-day debate of the third reading of the budget. The expenditures of the Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs and State Services, Provincial Council and local government bodies, ministries were taken up for debate today. State Minister Vidura Vikramanayake said that provisions were not allocated from the previous government under the Buddha Putra insurance scheme. He said that the scheme was initiated on 1st of October of this year. He said that the necessary payments will be made along with the due balance payment. The statement that Minister said that it was claimed that a large sum of funds were allocated to build Buddhist religious establishments. However, he said that such funds have not been allocated for the relevant institutions. He further said that 418 million rupees expected to be provided to Hambantota district for such activities. The State Minister said that 25,000 million rupees worth funds have been retracted from the fixed deposits of the Central Cultural Fund. He added that the Prime Minister has appointed a committee to probe into the withdrawal of funds from the Central Cultural Fund.
And allegations were directed on former President Maithripala Sirisena today for bypassing the law with the failure to convene former IGP Pujit Jasundara to the Security Council when the permanent members of the Security Council have been named through a Gazette notification. The attorney at law representing former IGP Pujit Jasundara, presenting submissions at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on the Easter Sunday attacks, made these allegations and said that the former president has done trivial acts. The defense minister of the time when the Easter Sunday attacks occurred in the country, former President Maithripala Sirisena, arrived at the commission to record his statement for the 7th day. According to the 16th section of the commission, the party of the defendants were given the opportunity for cross-examination. Representing His Eminence Archbishop Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, President's Counsel Shamil Pereira requested to submit the medical reports of the treatments undergone by the former president on April 20th and 21st, 2019 at a hospital in Singapore. The former president requested that only the commission judge panel should refer the reports on confidentiality. Subsequently, President's Counsel Anura Maddegoda, representing former IGP Pujit Jasundara, began the cross-examination of the former president. He pointed out that the relevant Gazette notification indicates that officers who should participate in the National Security Council. The former president agreed with the claim of President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda on the failure to convene the former IGP for the council since 2018. Accordingly, President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda proposed that the former president had acted against the law by failing to convene the members of the council. However, former president dismissed the charges and said that he has to take necessary measures in accordance to the circumstances without adhering to the legal framework. He said that he must convene those who can be trusted. He added that since the former IGP had failed to keep the trust, he was compelled to convene a DIG for the meeting. In response, President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda said that the former president has acted on his own terms while disregarding the legal provisions. The former president dismissed the claims and said that the officers will be convened based on his opinion in accordance to trust. President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda said that such provisions are not mentioned in the Gazette notification. The former president said that he took necessary decisions with the objective to carry out the functionalities of each institute in a disciplined manner. President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda said that the first citizen of the country has a responsibility to continue in his functions while adhering to the legal framework of the country. He said that the president should not act beyond the legal framework of the country. The former president agreed with the claims made by the President's Counsel and also nodded to the claim made by the President's Counsel on the adherence to the respective Gazette notification. President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda then inquired from the former president that he had failed to adhere to the legal provisions by purposely dismissing the former IGP from the Security Council. Former president said that measures which are not in line with the legal provisions have to be taken during the governance. He added that the most trusted would be taken closer, while those who cannot be trustworthy would be kept at distance. President's Counsel Anura Madhagoda claimed that former president approves the process to take measures beyond the legal framework considering the circumstances. The former president mentioned that he has not taken any decision in a backward manner. He said that all intelligence agencies, including the State Intelligence Service, should bear the responsibility over the incident.
Now let's move on for several local news in brief. Steps were taken today to provide 4G technology for Miyagala village in Monragala district, and this initiative was carried out under the Gamata Sannivedana project implemented by Sri Lanka Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. The construction of cold room storage complex in Dambulla area to store potatoes, lime and onion harvests have been expedited. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena engaged in an observational tour at the site recently. The cold room storage complex has been constructed under the loan assistance of Government of India. The project is expected to complete by next April. Minister Janaka Bandara Thennakoon was also present at the observational tour. An agreement was signed between Sri Lanka Samurdhi Authority and Litro Gas Limited at the Litro Gas headquarters today. The agreement will provide a convenient methodology for the Samurdhi beneficiaries to purchase gas cylinders and gas equipment kits under a concessionary installment payment scheme at lower price rates than the market rates. The agreement was signed by Chairman of the Litro Gas Limited, Anil Koswatta, and Samurdhi Director General, Bandula Tilakasiri.
And that's it for tonight's news. To watch us tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.